Hello there everyone, my name is Katy and you're watching my channel Superconsole, where today we are going to be talking about The Good Life. It's no secret that Deadly Premonition is one of my all-time favourite games, an eccentric Japanese developer Hidetaka Suehiro, a true gaming hero to me. So as you can imagine, I was pretty hyped to hear the news of an upcoming project. Since leaving Access Games in 2015, Swery took a health-related break from games, became a certified Buddhist priest, and then founded his new development studio White Owls in Osaka, where he began working on his new crowd-funded gaming project, The Good Life, in collaboration with Japanese development studio Grounding and Seattle-based Camouflage. Now, normally I don't like to do videos about Kickstarter projects, especially those that are still in the funding period. Currently, as of writing, the game still has around 35 days left to go, so this is a bit of an unusual one for me, but personally, I've backed the project. I'm really excited to tell you about it and just kind of spread the joy of what I think could be a really cool, interesting game. But anyway, I contacted Swery, who I've met on a number of occasions now, to ask him a few questions about the game and get some more detailed thoughts about what it's going to be at the end of the project as opposed to where we're at now. So here we go. So The Good Life is a surreal murder mystery RPG set in the fictitious English town of Rainy Woods. Hear that, Deadly Premonition fans? Supposedly it's the happiest place in the world if you believe the locals, which in honesty I'm not so sure about, as it's also the backdrop to a brutal stabbing scene. You play as Naomi, a reporter who has moved from the bright lights of New York City to the charming cobblestone paths of Rainy Woods, so she can pay off a rather large debt she's accumulated. No confirmation yet on whether she bumped into a pesky raccoon on her way to financial ruin. On arrival, Naomi discovers not only the grisly murder scene, but also finds herself embroiled in a few other townsfolk's secrets and bizarre happenings, like, oh, you know, the way everyone turns into cats and dogs by moonlight. But that's a totally different mystery to solve. You can even choose if you want to become a cat or a dog, so naturally I'm going to be the coolest doggo in town. As a dog, I'll be able to dig holes, follow scents, and swim in nearby lakes and rivers, whereas if I had Naomi transform into a cat, she could climb up to high places, steal fish and chips, and scratch walls, although I'm not sure that's as useful as the dog skills, to be honest. When discussing what first inspired Swery to make The Good Life, he explained that there were two big stories behind his inspiration. The first was when he was working on Deadly Premonition, and one day his producer was suddenly transferred to live in the UK. At first it was only meant to be for several months, but he ended up staying there for eventually 4 years, in which time the game was released. Although he was bewildered by British culture at first, he gradually got used to the customs and started acting like a British person, which Swery found really interesting and first gave him the idea of creating a game where you move to a town with a completely different culture. The second story, he said, was a personal one. Swery explained that his family loves animals, and at one time they had 12 cats and 4 dogs at the same time. Because of this, he often fantasised about living side by side with animals, or actually living in the world of animals. Sometimes he thought his pets would act a bit like humans, which gave him the idea of wanting to create a game where he could depict this. And now he's finally been able to do this with The Good Life. So back in 2013, I actually interviewed Swery and his producer Tomio Kanazawa about Deadly Premonition when it was on its director's cut tour back on the PS3, and we were in the town of Hitchin. It's kind of like marketplace town in Hertfordshire in England, and we were just talking about what a lovely place it was and what a nice kind of scenery and setting it was. And I remember Tomio and Swery talking to me and saying how they'd love to create a game set in that kind of environment. At the time they were talking about the possibility of Deadly Premonition 2, although sadly that never happened. But I remember thinking, when I watched the Good Life trailer, hold on a minute, it's a British town, it's kind of quaint, it's very cute, there's some cobblestone paths going on, it's, you know, you got little shops and everything. I thought, is it Hitchin? So I asked Swery. I remember that too, he said, and although I think Hitchin is a great location, Rainy Woods, the town that appears in The Good Life, is more of a remote location, way out in the sticks, probably somewhere near a lake. I love the sound of how the game would change based on my personal decisions, how you interact and make friends with the townspeople, and that will change how they think and behave, and thus change how their lives play out and eventually how the story ends. For example, in my town, an unusual couple might start dating, whereas in yours, maybe one of them could become mayor instead. While working your way through the main story to learn the truth behind the murder and the town's secrets, you'll also be doing your usual job as a journalist, taking photos of your life in Rainy Woods, posting them online via Instagram-like app called Flamingo, or selling them to the Morning Vale newspaper for cash. You'll also be able to eventually upgrade your camera, which will enhance the overall quality of the photos, which, we know from real life, camera equipment doesn't come without a cost. And when there's also loads of outfits for you to buy for Naomi, it sounds like we're going to need to be hustling quite a bit indeed. which is lucky because, as expected for a countryside town, there's plenty of weird part-time jobs to earn you some quick cash, such as bartending, becoming a casino dealer, shearing sheep, delivering milk, making hay and jam, gardening, mining, and even getting into the cryptocurrency world. Although I'm not sure Swery has actually had much experience of the internet speeds in the British countryside, because I can tell you from personal experience that most of us here have only just escaped the days of dial-up, so not sure how realistic the whole cryptocurrency world is. The game to me sounds like all the best bits about Deadly Premonition, and minus the slightly dodgy combat scenes, which I was absolutely useless at. It's even an open world, with an in-game clock and changing seasons, which I'm super excited to hear, as following about each of Greenvale's characters as they went about their daily businesses was another reason why I racked up such crazy hours on Deadly Prem in the first place. But seriously, follow around George all day and tell me if you think that guy is normal. So I actually asked Swery if he was thinking of including any more nods and Easter eggs to other games from his Sweryverse, as he calls it, into The Good Life, aside from, of course, Rainy Woods being the name of the town. And he said this is something that's on the cards for him. He's been thinking about it quite a lot, about how to make small things in the game happen that will make older fans of his games smile and pick up on cool, interesting tidbits, which I'm always really excited about. I even suggested to him having Willy the dog from Deadly Premonition just appear in the town at night alongside the other townsfolk turning into cats and dogs. So we'll see if that makes its way into the game, and then if it did, you know that I said that it was a thing before it happened, and then we can all just agree that was a thing, okay? Okay. Last year, White House submitted The Good Life to crowdfunding website Fig, which unfortunately was unable to raise the $1.5 million, falling $700,000 short after 40 days of funding. Now they're taking the ambitious project to Kickstarter for a second attempt at public funding, with a smaller goal, this time looking for a much more palatable $650,000, or 453,055 pence. But of course, this is only a portion of the total cost it will actually take to develop the game, so this time White Owls are working with Sony Music's gaming label Unties, unassociated with PlayStation, in order to release the game on multiple platforms whilst also ensuring the scope of the game doesn't change despite the smaller crowdfunding pot. When I spoke to Swery about the lessons he and his team had first learnt from their crowdfunding experience on Fig, he said, "We learnt a great deal. We also realised how many mistakes we made. Our biggest mistakes were the lack of preparation and the lack of experience. We only had experience selling finished products to the market, so we had no idea how our supporters would react when we unveiled our concepts and pre-production assets. Many crowdfunding campaigns have already come and gone, and there are many examples of what not to do right in front of our eyes, but we kept focusing all the time on the shining examples of success, and failed to think about the possibility that we might fail. But the lessons allowed us to make 4 big changes to our project. 1. Graphical improvements. 2. Redesigning and adding further detail to the game design. 3. Collaborating with partner companies. And 4. Lowering the initial goal amount. We chose Kickstarter as a platform to restart our campaign based on the feedback we received during the last campaign. Many people stated that they already had Kickstarter accounts and would rather pledge there, so we took them seriously and made this decision. I really like the newer art direction. I think it's a great improvement from what we've seen during the original Fig campaign. Hotta, the art director from Grounding, was keen to keep the low poly style, but add a higher degree of detail, whilst making sure the visual style never looked overly realistic. The characters are designed to look like puppets with sewn textures on their clothes. This aesthetic was always the art direction the game was going in from day one, as although Swery wanted the game to be played by adults, featuring explicit and grotesque content, whilst jarringly creating a peaceful environment which bounced on the edges of reality and fairy tale. Now, my last question was a really hard-hitting one. You know, I thought about it for a long time, it'd been bothering me, but it's been playing on my mind, and I just thought, I've got to ask him, I've just got to know. So I said, Swery, is the name The Good Life based on the British 1970s TV programme? Tell me. Just tell me. Do you know what he said? No, it's not. Apparently it's something that British people ask him all the time, but he was a kid at the time it aired, had no internet, didn't even know about the show in Japan, so it seems like that one's an open and closed case. If you like the sound of The Good Life and want to show your support, you can find the link to the Kickstarter page in the description for this video. I grabbed myself an early bird tier for the PS4 bundle, so I'm crossing my fingers and toes that this project will get fully funded this time around. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, do hit that like button. If you're new here, consider subscribing for more Japanese gaming and anime content. And if you're already a subscriber and wondering why you never get any notifications for my videos, remember to click on that little bell icon, and maybe the YouTube gods will be kind to us next time. Bye!